Hey everyone, this is Julie. Welcome back to Fearless Funnels, a decision support podcast for people who are considering if FG Funnels is right for them. Today's episode is going to be quite a bit longer than the others because I want to tackle the whole concept of migration and the best practices if you are going to be migrating to FG Funnels. And our overarching migration strategy is really about giving you a decision framework and sequencing that prevents that overwhelm. And the number one migration failure we see is trying to move everything. We want to build what matters first in the new system while we keep what's live intact until the new system is proven. We only migrate assets that preserve revenue and customer experience. Remember, a lot of us have digital clutter. We have half-finished projects, things that are not actually making us money. And the worst thing we can do in a new tool is fill it with things that are just going to create junk. Most people assume migration means recreating their entire digital house exactly as it is in whatever current system you have. But the panic that comes from that is usually because the current setup is like kind of a junk drawer. You got old funnels, half-built offers, and we want to decide what not to move. That is really the most important question. We want to look at what is active, what is making money, what has to remain available for customers, and then we stage the migration so that the user never experiences that blank slate or scary downtime. Okay, what we want to do is talk about the organization of FG Funnels and why that matters. It's going to make migration a lot easier. FG Funnels has 6 connected foundational tools. It has the CRM, Customer Relationship Manager. It has a calendar, has web's funnels, which includes like blogs and payments. It has an LMS, a learning management system, which could be things like courses, a community, or a client portal. Think like Dubsado. It has messaging, right? Email, texting, phone, and then it has automations. And these are workflows. This is the part of the system that makes all those tools talk to each other. And if we want to create a real world analogy for the sake of migration, let's imagine that you have a physical business for a second, right? It's got an office, it's got a storefront area, it's got an education area. The CRM is your front desk system. It's your Rolodex, it's the sticky notes, it's the receptionist brain, right? That's the CRM in the digital world. The calendar would be the appointment book on the counter. It would be for scheduling consults, sessions, demos, pickups, staff availability, et cetera, et cetera. The web and funnels in a digital business are like the building itself, plus how they found it. Storefront signs, window displays, aisle layouts, brochure racks, checkout lines, all of that. Any advertising you have in the yellow pages, et cetera, et cetera. The LMS is like the back room where the delivery happens. This could be a workshop space, a classroom, a lounge, client files, cabinet, curriculum binders, member-only room, a private office, those types of things where you're actually fulfilling on your customers. Then when you think about messaging, this would be like your phone on the counter. It would be your mail. It would be maybe your postcards. It would be texting your order is ready. Okay, all of that. And like DMs, even DMs would be like walk-ins or side conversations. Lastly, automations in a digital business, in a physical business would be like your standard operating procedures, your staff, right? If someone fills out a form, the receptionist files it, then gives them the packet, then schedules the follow-up, then tells the boss, right? Most people, when they think about migration, they think, oh, I'm just migrating software. But when you look at it in the context of a real life business, you're actually migrating an entire building and its systems. Okay, the most important question we want to ask ourselves before we begin migration is, are we starting from scratch? Are we migrating, or are we leaving it alone? And let's go through each of those tools. For example, your CRM. Do you have one? If you don't, then you're starting from scratch. If you do, you're going to have to migrate it. Okay? What about your calendar? Do you have one? If not, you're starting from scratch. If so, then you're migrating it, right, from Acuity to FG Funnels. When you get to the web and funnel tool, right? If we think about those foundational tools, there's a couple of things that are going on inside that tool. You have a website, funnels, blog, and a store. Here, you want to say, am I starting from scratch? Am I migrating from another tool? Or am I leaving it alone? And there are two types of leaving it alone. There's the permanent leave it alone, which is, you know what? I have a Shopify store. I've done a lot of work on it. I'm just going to leave it and I'm going to have it integrate with FG Funnels. That's a permanently, I'm leaving it. I'm not migrating it. Temporary leave it would be something like, you know what? I have a 5-page website on Squarespace. I eventually want to move it into FG Funnels so I don't have to pay for Squarespace. But for right now, it doesn't really make sense to move it. I should focus on some other things. That would be temporary leave it. Okay. We actually have a spreadsheet that we give out to new customers where they can go through each of these items and decide, are you starting from scratch? Are you migrating? Are you permanently leaving it where it is? Or are you temporarily leaving it where it is? Then we go into the LMS, that next tool, and there's a couple of options there. A community, courses and digital products, client portal. Again, you're going to want to ask yourself, are you starting from scratch? Are you migrating? Or are you leaving it where it is, or temporarily leaving it where it is? Then we go into messaging. That's email, texting, and phone. Then we ask the same about automations. And then lastly, I have a miscellaneous category because they don't really fit into any one of those tools real neatly. But things like ManyChat, quizzes, affiliate programs. Sometimes people have these special tools and they decide, you know what, I'm just going to temporarily leave it or permanently leave it. And usually people eventually migrate over because they realize, you know what, FG Funnels can do this and why am I paying for another tool? Okay. And you want to do that first. Then once you have an idea of what's migrating, what's being built from scratch, and what may be staying permanently versus temporarily, then you can begin the sequence of migration. We start with a pre-flight checklist, okay? Before you try to set up FGF, these are the things that you really need to think about, and they're sort of baseline infrastructure. The first is a business email address. If you are just starting out in business, you may be running off of a generic Gmail address. You need a business email. And that means you need to go to Google Workspace and set one up. And that business email address needs to work with your entire business, not just one specific offer. The second thing that you have to think about in your pre-flight checklist is you have to do inventory of your domains. A domain is not optional for going live. You can absolutely build in FG Funnels without a domain, but publishing it will be difficult if you don't have one. If you're just starting out, you can actually buy your domains right inside of FG Funnels and then build immediately. If you are migrating, though, you need to ask yourself, is the domain in use or not in use? If it's not in use, you can migrate it over. If it is in use, what we're going to do is build on a temporary domain. Let's say your website is yourwebsite.com and it's in use. You'll need to buy yourwebsite.co. Go ahead and buy that inside of FG Funnels. It's $10 a year, and then you're going to build that. And we will switch the domains once we know that new system is working. Really important. The third thing in your pre-flight checklist is Stripe or PayPal. You want to connect payment. That way you can start getting money in the door. And that is really important when you are migrating. You don't want to be stuck in limbo for months and months and months not making money. How do we decide what to move after we have evaluated starting from scratch, migrating, or leave it? You want to double check if it is active in generating revenue or supporting customers, we are going to move it, but we will build it on a temp domain, test it, and then move the domain. If you have things that are inactive, they're outdated, they're not tied to an actual growth plan, don't migrate it, okay? You can archive it, you can pause the subscription, you can save it to storage. One of the rules I have is if you don't touch it for the next 6 months, or if you hadn't touched it for the prior 6 months, you don't actually need it. Okay, let's talk about the sequence, the migration sequence that really helps. You want momentum first, infrastructure second, and migration third. Everybody wants things to be perfect before they go live, and that is not how it works. Okay, we really need to get you in momentum. And momentum means something simple done. This could be setting up your calendar. This could be one simple funnel. It could be a single offer page connected to Stripe. Just something that proves I can build here. And the one thing that we suggest that people do is the Audience Builder Challenge. And the reason why we love this so much is because everybody needs an audience. It's perfect for beginners or people who are advanced. It takes you through both the tech and the marketing of building a simple funnel. And once you have that win, you will be far more willing to do the migration work. Okay, so you think in terms of pre-flight, right, which is your business email address, your domain, either your permanent one that you're going to use or a temp one, your payment portal, and then you want to get yourself a small win. You want to get some momentum, get some energy in that tank, and then we go into the migration. And if we look at each one of these tools, how each category migrates, we're going to start with the CRM. The CRM is your customer relationship manager, and really all that is your customer's data. You're going to want to create a spreadsheet that is going to get your customer data into FG funnels cleanly. In fact, preparing your spreadsheet for importing is 90% of the battle when it comes to migration for the CRM. It's pretty simple. The calendar is also simple. If you already are using Google or Outlook, you can go ahead and make the integration, set up a primary calendar, and connect it. And then you can get rid of Acuity or Schedule Once or Calendly, okay? It's very, very simple, and there are built-in automations, so you don't have to build from scratch, that create those reminder emails or those texting reminders for people who have booked on their calendar. Okay, that's another great place to get a win. When we get to the website and funnels, this is where migration gets a little gnarly. If your website is not critical to revenue right away, it can be in that temporary leave it zone, like the Squarespace website. If your website is critical to revenue and you've done a lot of work on it, you can permanently leave it, like a really big Shopify store. The thing I want you to avoid is spending a lot of time and energy moving a website that is not critical to revenue when you could be working on a funnel that is critical to revenue. And once that's running, then you can decide, okay, I'm more comfortable with the tool. I'm ready to move my 5-page Squarespace website over. And the first funnel that you're going to want to migrate is the one with the highest revenue impact, or the one that's currently running traffic. And you're going to build the funnel, rebuild the funnel, migrate the funnel on a temporary domain, test it, and then unhook the domain, the main one that you want to use, and move it over. When it comes to the blog, if SEO is a major priority and you've already done a lot of work, I would say permanently leaving a blog on WordPress or Substack is fine. You can integrate around it. And you can still use all the other tools. If you don't have a blog yet, this is easy. You can build. If you have a blog and you want to migrate it, this is going to be a little bit time intensive. So I would do this last. Okay. If you have a store is optional. Again, if you have a really advanced Shopify store, I might permanently leave it. If you don't have an advanced Shopify store, I would do a temporary leave it. Focus on some other funnels first and then move it into the FG Funnels digital store once you're up and running. The next tool is the LMS, the Learning Management System, and this one always feels scary and high pressure because it involves customers and content. And we want to treat it as kind of like a customer experience project. And the best way to do this is to set up your new community, your new client portal, or your new course membership area on a temporary domain or a subdomain, and then start using it immediately for new customers and clients. Leave your old customers on whatever they're on. Once your new system is working, you can make an announcement that you're moving and you can point them to the new area. Another option In some cases, let's say you're on Dubsado and you've got a bunch of clients, like just put your new clients on your new system and let the old customers stay on the old system and fade out. It's way less stressful than trying to move people over. Okay, so that's the LMS, and I am going to get to a question that we get about payment plans, but I'm going to do that in a minute. The next tool is messaging, right? This is email, text, phone. And the one that's probably the most complicated, because most people don't have phone and text. So when they come over to FG Funnels, they're starting from scratch. But let's talk about email, okay? There are two different types of email marketing that you do, and you may not even realize it. There's transactional email marketing and there's promotional email marketing. Transactional emails are triggered by actions. Someone opts in, they get a lead magnet. Someone makes a purchase, they get an email. Someone books a call, they get a reminder. Someone signs up for your membership, they get an access email. These are absolutely critical to establish in FG Funnels because they will make the actual system and automations function. So you need transactional email established. The nice thing about transactional email is it happens in drip, meaning you don't have 10,000 people opting into your funnel a day. Maybe you have 20 or 30, and those emails drip out based on customer actions. And email deliverability loves this because it's not getting that full blast, and that's sometimes how you can end up in spam or you can end up in promotions. So transactional email is very important to establish. Promotional emails are different. Promotional emails are sometimes called marketing blasts or they're called newsletters. These are set in time. You write something and you blast it to your entire list. The most common tools that do this are something like Kit, you could even Substack, ActiveCampaign, etc. What you want to do here is if you have a big email list, you probably want to keep your Kit or your ActiveCampaign for now for your newsletters until your transactional email is up and running and it's warming up your domain. And that's important. And then you can start using the broadcasts and the newsletters and the marketing blast feature in FG Funnels. And we recommend for a best practice that you drip those emails out. And that's just a little button you click when you go to hit send, you hit in drip mode, and that will just help with your deliverability. And some people will say, you know what, I'm going to keep my newsletter in Kit. And the reason is because I'm tied into the Creator Network or Substack, which kind of is like a mock social media channel. No big deal. You can do that. But you absolutely need transactional messaging inside of FG Funnels if you want to benefit from all of the automations. Okay? And then with texting and phone, the one thing that is going to be a bottleneck is if you don't go through the A2P registration. I recommend you go through the A2P registration process so that you have a phone number or texting number when you're ready to use it. The next tool is the automations. Automations really should be minimal during migration. You do not want to build all these complicated automations and workflows. You want only the workflows that you need to make that revenue path run, and then you can expand later. That means if you have leads coming in, the delivery of whatever the lead magnet is, it means purchase fulfillment, it means granting access to communities and portals, or key reminders. All those fancy nurture sequences can be postponed until the system is stable. Lastly, the miscellaneous stuff, ManyChat, affiliate systems, quizzes. We recommend that you just use the existing tools within FG Funnels until you're comfortable and then migrate them over. Okay? Now, I want to go back to that question, what about payment plans and subscriptions? It depends on where you're coming from. Some platforms actually own the subscription inside their tool, like Kartra, and that can make migrations messy because the billing logic lives in that platform. Other setups let Stripe manage the subscription directly, which is ideal because Stripe becomes like the source of truth, and then your recurring billing keeps running even if you change software. So the first step is to actually figure out, are your payment plans and subscriptions in Stripe, or are they created in your current tool and just connected to Stripe? If your current tool is holding the subscription hostage, you absolutely need to get on FG Funnels immediately. You're going to have to run a split system for a season. Leave everyone where they are, and that way their billing is uninterrupted, but route every new customer into FG Funnels immediately. That way, all future monthly recurring revenue is built in the right place, and it is owned and managed by Stripe. And then just let your old platform naturally shrink. As people start to cancel or churn or finish a payment plan, that revenue will fade on the old system. If you're like, Julie, I can't do that, and if it's true that this ongoing monthly recurring revenue you plan to keep long term, you will need to do a resubscribe moment. And when you're ready, you can do an account moving campaign that asks current members to re-enter their payment details inside of FG Funnels. I would definitely recommend framing that as an upgrade. Do it in waves, communicate clearly, do it in batches, and that way you don't have too much interruption. When it comes to moving customers into portals and communities, you do not want to export everyone and then blast them into new system. Again, same thing. You are building the new system on a temporary domain, getting new people in, and that way we know it's working. Then in batches, you are going to move people over to the new system. We recommend creating an announcement, giving them a date range in which to move, putting it in the old portal, and then once that's done and you know it's working, then you can tell your larger list. I want you to remember that migrating to FG Funnels is not about recreating the entire digital world overnight. And as you're learning a new tool, you don't want to add the stress and overwhelm of downtime and customers being confused. And that is why our philosophy is the way it is. And hopefully that's helpful. If you are getting ready to migrate, we do have a document that explains all of this. We also have a custom GPT that is trained on this philosophy and can help you work out some of your questions. Just email us at support@fgfunnels.com and we will be happy to give that to you.